Today, what am I doing? I am stitching in a leather luggage tag, but it's not a regular leather luggage tag. It is a Brogue leather luggage tag, which I'll show you for a second. It is as of yet unfinished, but here we have a blue and also tan exterior, and the tan on the outside here is being brogued. So this is the broguing detail. You see it very often on shoes. And going with the luggage theme, we have 4 corner protectors with that broguing. So it gives it a bit of a theme. The idea is on a luggage tag, obviously you put your details, contact information on the inside, and then obviously we'll be creating a strap for this, but when you undo the strap, you open it on the inside and you can see it's fully lined with tan, in this case kid skin, glacé kid skin. So that's what we're doing. So we're finishing this up by stitching the exterior together now. So all the other components are done, and then we'll be able to finish the edges properly. So glacé kid skin, that's just basically a small goat, and it's had the surface polished, so it gives it a bit more of a shiny look. Apologies to anyone who tuned into my previous live, which was a few minutes ago. Something happened with the internet connection. I don't quite know what, but I looked up and it said you are now offline. So I've had to start again, which is a little bit unfortunate. So if anybody does have any questions at any point, again, feel free to chime in. No problem at all. I'm free to chat while stitching. If I can stop this from tangling. Move this around to the side a little bit for you guys. So I mentioned actually in the previous live, for some of you who may have been there, I'm using Gutermann Extra Strong for this, which is a type of polyester thread. I wanted something thin because I don't want the stitching to be too obvious, distracting from the broguing detail. I think in this case a subtle stitch works a little bit better. But so I wanted it to be a smaller stitch, also nice and fine, but still very strong. And I think in this case, Gutermann's, is it M6 and M782 is a good choice. Really thin, 0.35, very, very strong. You'd be hard pressed to break that with your hands. Not recommended, you could cut yourself, but very strong. And in this case, very subtle. So I find contrasting thread in this case would probably be, it might look nice, but it would probably end up with a piece looking a little bit busy, with a bit too much going on, trying to vie for attention. The main feature on this is obviously the broguing. And I'm stitching this in at 2.7 millimeters. So smaller end of the standard pricking iron range. And in the center, which you may have seen, there's actually an acetate sheet. Acetate is a semi-synthetic kind of polymer. I guess you could say it's plastic, made from wood pulp or cotton pulp. It's not a full synthetic, so it's not a crude oil product. It's still quite strong and durable. Guess you could go the whole hog and use polycarbonate or something if you really wanted to, though I dare say that would be hard to stitch through. So where are you guys watching from? Where in the world are you? And if you're working on any projects, feel free to tell me what you're working on. Always interested to hear what projects people have going on. So this is actually a round awl. This is not a bladed awl for those wondering. I've created the prick marks, created the holes on both sides. So as I'm stitching, I'm using this to actually match them up to make sure that I go through properly. Because on the inside, that acetate sheet, it's got a slit in it, but it's actually very hard, much harder than leather. So it's not Well, I guess you could do, hurt your fingers. It's not that easy to stitch with just your needle. So I'm using a round oar just to open it up slightly, make sure the holes align from one side to the other. Going into the corner of the corner protector. Now all of these have actually been stitched along the front as well. Somebody was asking about that recently, saying how are you going to stitch the front? But just delicately, you have to work within that edge there. We've got the little holes of the broguing, and then we've got the pinking, which is the frilly front, as it were. Use pinking shears. They're like scissors, but with triangle teeth on them. Use pinking shears to kind of cut it out, and it leaves that pattern, which is quite nice. A line from this side. It's a little bit better. There we go. So navigating that first corner there. So yeah, the kind of the acetate sheet in the center does make it a little bit more tricky to stitch in. So I'm just going to adjust that to about there. Always like to have the project nice and close to the jaws because it flexes less, which is a bit better. Makes it easier to stitch, certainly. Oops. These clamps, they're good for lives and holding everything still whilst going on camera, but they snag a lot, which is really annoying. Unless I want to put the camera in my lap, I can't really use my regular clams, unfortunately. Excuse me. A little bit of the hay fever going on. So the outside of this, because we've got the embellishments, I've actually left them full thickness. By embellishments, I mean these add-ons here. They're not really functioning. Actually, they're just mainly for decoration. I've left them full thickness because we're creating something quite dainty and finely crafted. We want a little bit more thickness than a regular luggage tag to make it last. If I really split all these pieces down to create the thinnest luggage tag possible with all these little details on them, I don't believe it would last very long with your average baggage handlers throwing cases in a plane. So I've left it all full thickness. So the edges are actually nearly 5mm, whereas the main body is closer to 3. And that will give it a little bit more toughness, a little bit more durability. And that's the idea anyway. Excuse me 1 second. It's a bit better. So I've yet to finish these edges, so that is going to be coming up next. So these are basically raw edges. They've been cut, but they need edge finishing. For that, I'm actually using a tan edge paint that I've had to kind of make up to get the exact, or as close to the exact tan as I can possibly get to match all the embellishments. So I do a little bit of color mixing there. I do actually have a blog post all about that if anybody's interested on how to color match and also how to mix edge paint. So I have 2 that you might find interesting. It's always important. I also recently did one on dyes, and I think the latest one was actually finishes, surface finishes. I'll be doing another blog post soon. I haven't decided. I've got a list of things that I want to discuss in the blog. Open to ideas, guys. If you have any ideas on anything you want to learn, I do a blog once a month. So leathercraftmasterclass.com. click on the blog. Tons of free information there as well. Everything from restoration, finishing, exotics, prototyping, design. There's actually loads on there. Don't know how many I've done now. Kimberly Page says, I love your blog on color mixing. Oh, good. I'm glad. Glad that helps. Yeah, it's fun to write a blog. I actually really enjoy it. I usually go to a cafe for the day, sit, relax, get my laptop out, do some work, have all my research notes, and yeah, it's actually really enjoyable. So I take pride in that blog, actually. Glad to see you guys again. I was wondering where you've been. I have been doing a few lives every so often. Just not as frequently as I've liked. I really want to get the Q&A sessions back again, especially as I can use those for putting up on the podcast for those who'd rather listen than watch. So yeah, watch out for that. Jupiter says, Phil, would you do a blog on how to maintain tools to help me keep my Dan Blanchard tools from rusting? Well, I have never even seen a tool rust where I am, so I'm assuming you're in an environment that may be quite warm and humid. Correct me if I'm wrong. And that might be the culprit. But yeah, no, it's a great idea actually. Tool maintenance in general, outside of sharpening, isn't something that I've written about. But to be honest, it's not something I've had to really do too much. And I don't oil my tools, regardless if they're stainless steel or carbon steel. But yeah, tool maintenance in general. It's a good idea. Jupiter says, indeed I am. Yeah. I mean, outside of just getting all stainless steel tools, I don't know how possible that is. Could it be done? It'd be difficult, it'd be challenging. Yeah, I mean, your options are to have dehumidifying units or machines or humidity absorbers in your workspace, and then keep it kind of sealed off with your door and something to seal underneath the door, like a brush, just to keep it a lower humidity. Or you could put a layer of grease or oil on your tools, which is not ideal really, being as you're going to be working with leather and you'd have to degrease them every time. Then you've got what Blanchard sometimes put on their tools, which is a layer of, not shellac, some kind of clear coat finish, which I don't like. It's usually the first thing I do is to get that off to stop it rusting. You might want to work on dehumidifying. Sometimes as well, basements can be very humid. So you might not be in an environment which is particularly humid, but you might have a room in your house which is quite humid. And the only way to really find out is to get something like this, which is what I have on the wall, which tells me the temperature right now is 24 degrees, and probably a mirror image for you guys, I'm not sure. And it is 58% humidity. I think that's quite low humidity for the UK. I think we average about 68% humidity. Correct me if I'm wrong. Good for cigars. This one's giving me a little bit of trouble, so we have to go in from this side. Sometimes that acetate sheet much harder than leather. It's actually a bit of a pain to get through sometimes. There we go. That's better. I do work in my basement, so that comment was inspired. Yeah. I mean, I got a whole pack of those little things for next to nothing on, I think it was Amazon that I got it from. If you put one in your basement and then, you know, maybe put one or two in other parts of your house and just see whether there is actually a difference in humidity, and there might be, and that might be cause for concern, because basements are always, or outside of bathrooms, the first place to start getting mold in the walls and behind the walls, which is terrible because you can't see it. So if you're having issues with rusting tools in the basement, there might be a bigger, read more expensive problem that you might have on your hands there. So you might want to get that checked out. Don't want to scare you or anything. Yeah, your leather tools might be the canary in the coal mine for a grander problem. Just going to move this down a little bit. For those of you just joining, I'll just show you what I'm working on. Leather luggage tag. So there we go. When you open this, normally you won't see handmade in England. What you'll see is a sheet of paper or card with the contact details on. That's the whole idea behind a luggage tag, obviously. So in case you lose your luggage, people know how to contact you to return it. But when you open, you see that we have a lining of kidskin suede, glacé kidskin, and on the inside as well, again, we have that glacé lining, and I've made it the same color as the outside embellishments, which I think works quite nicely. And I'll also be playing with the colors a little bit when it comes to creating the strap to hold the tag onto your luggage. So we'll do a little bit of blue and a little bit of tan as well on that. So I'm just going to get this in a little bit closer. There we go. So yeah, so even though I am using a polyester, kind of a natural looking polyester, but something thin and strong, I do wax it. It would be very difficult to stitch this length all in one with an unwaxed polyester of this style, mainly because it would just be very easy to get knotted, something you need to be aware of. So coming onto the home straight here, just a few more minutes of hand stitching should do us. I'll then be just tapping it down and giving you a little bit of a closer look. But I'm not using a contrast thread here. The main reason is I don't really want thread to be a feature. I don't want the thread to be drawing the eye away from the overall design. If you've got quite a bit going on with the broguing, with the pinking detail, contrasting threads, you've also got initials on there, you've got the maker's mark on there, linings, things like that. Sometimes a contrasting thread, like if I was to use a white thread, it could distract the eye too much and make the whole piece look a little bit too busy, too much going on. It's like adding every flavor from the cupboard into your meal, get a kind of a confusion of flavors. So when it comes to designing things, I like to have a main focus, the big idea of the design, and then as little as possible to distract away from that. But that's just my own philosophy on designing things. Good question from Harmon. Do you stitch with an awl always, or do you also fully prick the leather? So this leather is actually fully pricked on both sides before mating them together. And they are matched. so they all work in unison. If I was to show you guys, so you can see we are pre-pricked along here, and if I turn over, I'm pre-pricked along there, and you're probably thinking, okay, well, why are you using an awl then? Well, the awl that I'm using isn't a regular bladed awl, it's actually a round awl. Okay, so it's, you know, it's semi-sharp on the end, but it's just round. Okay, it's blunt. In between we have a sheet of acetate, which is a semi-synthetic plastic, and that has the slits from the pricking iron, but it's very, very hard, much harder than leather, and just pushing through with the needles, just pushing through with the needles is actually really difficult to do, especially as it's quite warm in here at the moment. So my fingers aren't as dry as they could be. So pushing them through will be a bit difficult. So what I'm doing is actually just opening up the hole a little bit with a round awl so that I can easily stitch my piece together. Yeah, it takes a little bit longer, but then again, it'd probably take much longer if I was struggling there pushing my needles through with sore fingers. So that's why I'm doing that. Let's see if I can actually... Okay, if I can push it through. I cannot, no. Thought I'd give that a try. Yeah, I predicted that would be quite hard, being as it's not even easy to push the round awl through. Yeah, it really depends. I mean, if I'm stitching something together that's actually very thin, you know, maybe 1.5, 2 millimeters up to around that range, I'm going to prick all the way through. If I'm using really old vintage irons that don't do well being going all the way through leather, then I still might use an awl. But generally speaking, if it's a thinner piece of leather, I won't be using an awl for that. I'll just be pricking all the way through and then stitching just 2 needles and thread. So almost at the end here, I have a good amount more thread than I actually needed. The Wonk says, hey Philip, hey buddy, how you doing? Glad you could join. Yeah, so halfway through I can really feel the resistance on the round awl. And then it kind of gives way. So almost at the end here. And then what I'll do is I'll just tap down the stitches with you guys once I've finished the end here. Excuse me. And I'll give you a little bit more of a closer look of what I've been doing. And I'm going to move this up just a little bit. Now I've actually pre-stitched the top part here. This is actually where the card with all your details on goes through. So that has to be open, that has to remain open. So we can't stitch that together. And once you've stitched these sides in, you can't then stitch each side of the top. That way it kind of stays open. So you have to pre-stitch each side first. So sometimes it can be a bit like playing a game of chess. You always got to think of your next move, and you don't want to kind of snooker yourself. Or snookered, as you Americans would say. Do you use those special scissors with the zigzag pattern for the edges? Yeah, hold on. Just give me 1 second. Which one did I use? This one. Yeah, so you can see there's I'll hold it up here, a zigzag pattern there on the teeth. So if I take a piece of scrap here, take this piece of leather, I'm going to take my pinking shears. You can see there, it gives us that pattern. The main reason this exists, I don't know if we've got any fabric here to demonstrate what it's actually for. if I cut fabric like this, it reduces the chances of little pieces coming off and like the edges coming apart. Whereas on the other side, you can actually already see that's starting to happen. It's starting to fray. So it's actually for fabric as an anti-fraying device. But if you look at Brogue shoes, traditionally it's always been finished in this kind of pattern, which really does add a nice bit of decoration to it. There's no practical reason for it. It just adds visual interest. Actually makes it quite easy to cut out as well. And they're not expensive. I think I must have paid about £8 to £10 just for those shears. They're not overly expensive. You can also buy some really nice vintage ones online for a little bit more money on eBay. They come up quite often. Pinking shears, so pink as in the word pink with ing on the end, and shears. So they're not scissors, they're shears. You might be able to get really tiny pinking scissors, I don't know. So almost at the end there, but I've got 3 stitches to go. Hi from Vancouver, Canada. I just joined the live. Will this full video be available to watch later? Yes, it will. All my lives stay up. They do on Instagram as well. If you've seen my lives on there, but the issue with YouTube lives is they no longer bundle your live videos with your regular manually uploaded videos, if you know what I mean. If you go onto someone's channel, you'll see videos, and then you'll see things like playlists, community, etc. You just got to click on lives, and then you'll see all the lives that I've ever done all bunched together. I don't know why it does that. I prefer them just to all be connected. But hey ho. That's the way the cookie crumbles, as they say. I don't think anyone says that. I think that was my dad's expression. All right, last one. Giving me a few issues. There we go. So a couple of back stitches. So going back on ourselves, but I'm also looping over the thread a couple times, so a couple casts, which you can only do in leather that's has a little bit of thickness to it, because it takes up space. Right, where are our scissors? Now this is polyester, and the great thing about polyester is you can burn the ends with a lighter. Not that I want to get any flames too close to the skin on this. But I'm going to be tucking those in, which I'll do now. Dave Rooney says, Gold Norm member here. Oh, that's cool. Thanks for your guidance. How do you cut the inside corners? So these corners here. Okay. So I'm assuming that you think that this is all one piece. How do I cut the insides and get around that? It would be very tight to do. In fact, it is not. This is one piece here. This is a second, third, fourth, fifth, all the way around. So all these corner protectors are actually separate parts on both sides. And then we fill this in with, do I have any spare strip? Oh, there we go. There's some spare stripping. So in between, we cut, and then we glue those in, and then we crease, then we mark, and then we stitch. So that's how. So if you're wondering how difficult it is, if you're referring to just that zigzag pattern, then that's with these pinking shears. As you can see, they've got little zigzag teeth on them, little triangles. Okay, let's move this over. Oops, yeah, just drop it, that's fine. This is a live. We're allowed to make mistakes. All right. Let's move the stuff out the way. So where is our finish? There we are. So just there and there. I'm going to tuck those in. Make sure the peak of my hat is not in the way, guys. And now what I can do is just get a dab of glue. I'm lazy, so I have one of these little needle applicators that's just small enough to get inside in these little holes. Squirt in there. Allows it to go a little bit deeper in there, the glue to go in there. And then I finish off with just tucking. I mean, working with polyester, which this is, you have the option of melting the ends, but sometimes what happens is the thread darkens when you melt it, and you'll see these little kind of flat mushroomed out plugs. I mean, on an area that isn't going to be seen, like on the inside, it's absolutely fine, but on the outside, this is what I usually do to finish off linen. What I'm going to do is get this piece of paper here with my course sequencing on, or one of them, just in case there's any roughness on the table. Okay, how are we doing on the other side? All good. Okay, so now it's pretty much a matter of finishing off the edges. So there'll be a luggage strap that goes through here that you can attach and adjust to your luggage so that the this isn't on the ends, you know, sticking over an angle, so it's going to get crushed. So you can adjust the length. That'll be coming up as it is right now, so we can see. As a see-through window, you might be able to see how much shinier that is. That is a sheet of acetate. And you won't normally see the Made in England sign because there will be a sheet of paper with your contact information on there. But when you open up, you have the lining on the inside, so it's fully lined. And even the part behind your contact information is fully lined. And then normally, when that will be strapped in, no one's going to see your contact information unless they actually have to unstrap it and then physically open it. So that is stitching the exterior on the Brogue leather luggage tag. So this is a course that's going to be coming out on the 8th of next month. So we'll be looking forward to that. And it's a great one for personalizing as well. So if you're creating these to sell to other people, to your clients, you've got a lot of space that you can actually add your own initials to on both sides as well. Great for your own logos as long as they fit on there. But I just wanted to create something different, showcase how to do broguing. And in case you're wondering, the broguing detail on here is all done manually with hole punches. So you don't have to buy broguing punches. You don't have to go and buy them. Some of them could be very expensive. So it's not really necessary. If you really enjoy broguing and you really get into it and you've been inspired to kind of try it out on bags, on wallets, and all sorts of things, you can transfer these skills. But if you find it quicker and simpler to use a broguing punch, then you can do so. You can invest in it. But this course is just literally 2 hole punches and that's it. So easy one to follow. So see if you want to invest in that afterwards. These pinking shears, again, I think I paid about £7 or £8 for this. So not expensive. I've got 2 of them in 2 different sizes. So easy one to make, doesn't take up a lot of leather, just fun to do with a new skill. So this course again coming out on the 8th as usual. Dave Rooney says, thank you. Steve says, hello again. I guess you caught my previous live. I don't know what happened, but the connection lost. I was like mid-conversation about thread. I looked up and it said you were offline. That's a lovely tag. Thank you very much. All right, guys, for those of you who are new, obviously I did a lot of stitching today. If you're interested in learning how to hand stitch, I have a free course on my website, leathercraftmasterclass.com, link below. Enter your email address on the pop-up and I'll send you a free video course on how I hand stitch in detail, free of charge to your inbox. Those of you who chimed in and said hello and shared their thoughts, thank you very much. I appreciate all your questions and your time. And talking of which, I'll see you next time. Take care, guys. Bye.